Falling in love is absolutely incredible. But let's be real, navigating those early stages, it's a total minefield. Welcome to this explainer where we're going to break down the 12 early warning signs that a relationship might just be headed for disaster. Spotting these red flags early on can save us a tremendous amount of heartache down the road.
Because think about it, the intense passion of a new crush can act almost like emotionally tinted glasses. They're incredibly thick, essentially blinding us to foundational issues and making us completely overlook some pretty questionable behavior from our shiny new partner. But here's the catch. That intense initial phase doesn't last forever. As things get serious and your emotions start to stabilize, those overlooked issues sharpen in clarity. Usually, the major problems that explode later on were actually right there, in some form, from the very beginning.
So instead of just throwing a random checklist at you, we're going to logically organize these 12 signs into 4 core themes: disconnection and loss of self, unbalanced dynamics, disrespect and broken trust, and finally, knowing when to walk away. This is going to help us see exactly how these relationship weeds take root. All right, let's dive into our first theme: disconnection and loss of self, losing your identity and foundation. These first 4 signs can be really sneaky. You might realize the pull you feel is solely romantic, with literally nothing deeper holding the two of you together. Or maybe you find yourself actively disliking their friends, spending way too much time together in an isolated little bubble, or just realizing the timing is completely off. These indicate that you either lack true common ground, or you're becoming way too dependent on this person for your own identity. And honestly, that just isn't sustainable. It's like this quote brilliantly illustrates. Like the little pig with the straw house, it can collapse easily. If you're relying entirely on romance without any shared interests or goals, you're building on a terribly weak foundation. A strong bond requires something other than just the sparks. Without that common ground, when the inevitable storms of life hit, the whole thing can just blow right over. And speaking of common ground, you've probably heard that friends act as a reflection of the person, right? Well, actively disliking their social circle is a massive red flag. Sure, it's healthy to have separate friends, but if you absolutely can't stand the people they choose to surround themselves with, it really implies that on some fundamental level, you might not actually like the person you're with. Another quiet relationship killer is poor timing. On the surface, you two might seem like the absolute perfect match right now. But beneath that, you could be at entirely different stages in life. Maybe you're laser focused on your career, or one of you is still secretly unhealed from a past relationship. Even if you desperately want it to work, if the timing isn't in your favor, it can tragically end the relationship before it even really begins. Let's move to our second theme: unbalanced and toxic dynamics, when the effort and power aren't equal. This is where the relationship starts feeling less like a balanced partnership and much more like a constant, draining battle for control. The major warning signs: the relationship feels totally one-sided, you feel controlled in your daily life, or you are literally fighting all the time right out of the date. Ask yourself this directly. Do you usually start the conversations? Are you the one planning all the dates? Listen, it's one thing when someone tells you they care, but another entirely when they actually show it in their actions. If you find yourself always giving way more than you're getting back, that one-sided effort means your partner just isn't doing the work required. Relationships aren't a competition, but the effort absolutely must be mutual. And what's really interesting about feeling controlled early on is how it shows up in everyday moments. Are your decisions frequently overridden without your input? Do they just expect you to happily follow along without a word? Having your voice silenced like that reveals a deep, fundamental lack of mutual respect. A healthy relationship simply cannot survive that kind of severe power imbalance. And then, of course, there's the fighting. Now, occasional disagreement is totally normal. It actually helps couples grow. But if you're dealing with constant conflict, where energy-sapping arguments turn into volatile screaming matches this early in the relationship, that is a flashing red siren of incompatibility. It drains all the life out of the partnership, leaving zero chance to actually grow closer. Okay, let's look at our third theme: disrespect and broken trust, the fatal relationship killers. This is where things cross the line from unbalanced to highly toxic. You feel like you can't be yourself, you don't feel accepted, there's a complete lack of trust, they're suddenly mean to other people, or they communicate through constant passive aggression. These 5 toxic behaviors will absolutely destroy the honesty and vulnerability you need to build real love. Think about this for a second. Are you still wearing your first impression suit? When we first meet someone, it's totally natural to filter our personalities a bit. We want to put our best foot forward.
But by the 100th time you hang out, you shouldn't have to put on a performance anymore. If you still feel required to filter who you are, or if you face nonstop criticism meant to fix your flaws, you're literally sacrificing your unique value for someone who doesn't see your worth.
Oh, and beware of the Jekyll and Hyde facade. Is this person incredibly sweet and kind to you, but then unreasonably impatient and rude to the waiter? If they're consistently snapping at service staff, drivers, or strangers, you need to be very wary. It's highly likely they're just faking their sweetness to win you over, and eventually, that same rudeness is going to be aimed right at you.
We also really have to watch out for passive-aggressive behavior. Openly talking about frustrations is great, but backhanded compliments, heavy sarcasm, playing the victim, holding grudges, and avoiding clear communication, that means there is a massive breakdown happening. If communication devolves into this kind of avoidance, it becomes literally impossible to solve problems constructively. Left unchecked, it's the death of the relationship.
And then there is trust, the absolute bedrock of it all. If you find yourself checking their phone on the sly or calling their friends just to secretly check up on where they are, well, that paranoia is a huge roadblock. Mutual trust is what allows for honesty and growth. Without it, these paranoid behaviors are just going to repeatedly haunt you, leaving absolutely no room for the connection to thrive. Which brings us to our final theme, knowing when to walk away, valuing your own time and worth. Ultimately, understanding these 12 signs isn't just about analyzing your partner. It's about demanding the partnership you actually deserve. Are you settling for a lump of coal or being treated like the gem you are? Perfection is a total myth, for sure, but you should never compromise your basic worth. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question. If you're recognizing these red flags today,